Like most federal agencies, there are a maximum of 5 people that serve as commissioner for the SEC. One is the chair and the other 4 are commissioners. What do they do? How do they get the job? When do they get the job? Today on Zippy Point. I'm Brock Romanek. I'm a big fan of yous. So how long do commissioners serve for? Each of the SEC's 5 commissioners serve for a term of 5 years, except if they are appointed to fill a vacancy, then they only serve for the remainder of their predecessor's term. If their term expires and a successor is not yet confirmed, they can remain on the job, remain with the commission beyond the expiration of their term, but not beyond the expiration of the next term of Congress. So they might stay as long as 18 months after the term expires. That's the max. However, a commissioner can be reappointed to a new 5-year term, so they can serve for more than 5 years. That actually recently happened for Commissioner Hester Peirce. It happens occasionally, particularly if someone is appointed to serve out the remainder of another commissioner's term, and so they haven't been at the SEC for all that long. And to be honest, many commissioners don't want to serve more than one term. They can leave and cash in as having served as a commissioner and getting a nice job after they leave office, or they're just ready to do something else. 5 years is a long time to do any one job. As noted on the SEC's website, each of the 5 commissioners' terms are staggered so that one commissioner's term ends on June 5th of each year. This staggering is subtly called for by the last clause in Section 4A of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. That's what happened with the original set of commissioners when the SEC was born in that year as part of that act. And it's continued to be that way ever since. Vacancies are filled every June 5th. That's a magical date upon one of the commissioners' term ending each year. What political party do the commissioners belong to? So Section 4A of the Securities Exchange Act, the law that established the creation of the SEC, as I mentioned before, notes that not more than 3 of the commissioners shall be members of the same political party. And in making appointments, members of the different political parties shall be appointed alternately as nearly as may be practicable. So while it may be true that some federal agencies don't have this mixed political party requirement for their governing body, the SEC does have that. It's baked into this long-standing legislation. A few years back when President Trump got into office in 2016, some people were saying that the mixed composition of political party backgrounds of the commissioners was a tradition and not required. And that simply wasn't true. That's baked into the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. And it wasn't too long ago that you didn't even know, you couldn't tell which political party a particular SEC commissioner came from. It didn't matter, it shouldn't matter, because the SEC's mission is investor protection primarily, and investor protection is politically colorblind. But I wouldn't say that's the case today. Quite a few of the votes on rulemakings fall along party lines. I would hazard to say there are far more 3-2 commission votes on a rulemaking today compared to 20 years ago. When I worked for a commissioner, I don't think I'm wrong in saying and remembering that Chair Levitt didn't bring a rulemaking to a vote unless he knew that the vote would be unanimous. Most votes during that period of time were unanimous. How do commissioners get appointed? Each commissioner gets nominated by the White House, by the president. And to be nominated, as you would expect, it's politics. It's who you know, the right place at the right time. The White House gets lobbied by all sorts of groups, so the White House might really care who gets nominated in some cases, or the lobbying might pay a dividend, might play a big role on who is tapped. It all depends on the circumstances at the time. And that's just to be nominated. Once nominated, a commissioner needs to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate, and the Senate confirmation sometimes can be a bear. Some nominees do get hung up and have not gotten through in recent years due to politics. As a result, particularly in recent years, more and more commissioners seem to have a background as being a former staffer for the Senate Banking Committee. And that makes sense from the ease of confirmation perspective, since that's the Senate subcommittee that initially gets the ball rolling to confirm a nominee. So if it's a staffer from the committee, all the members of the Senate that are on the Banking Committee know that staffer. It's harder to say no to someone that you know. That's human nature. Sometimes it feels like it can take an eternity to fill an open slot on the commission. Sometimes the SEC operates with less than a full slate of commissioners. Back in the 1990s, President Clinton took his time filling some open slots for the various federal agencies. And the SEC commission got down to just 2 commissioners, Chair Levitt and Commissioner Wallman. and it was hard for them to operate because some actions required a minimum of 3 commissioners. And the open commission meetings looked strange because there was just 2 people sitting up there. What do commissioners do? So back in the 30s and the 40s, nearly 100 years ago, or in the earliest days of the SEC had a very small staff, and the commissioners did a lot of the work today that would be considered work that the staff does. Take investigative testimony, actually review registration statements, declare them effective themselves, the works. Section 4 of the Exchange Act permits the commissioners and the chair to delegate authority over particular functions of the agency to the staff. And that's something the SEC has done liberally over the years. That's why today the Corp Fin staff can accelerate the effectiveness of a registration statement under delegated authority. So if you've ever read one of these effectiveness orders that the staff posts on the SEC's website, it says, by the commission pursuant to delegated authority. The staff makes decisions under delegated authority hundreds at a time each day. Then there is Reorganization Plan number 10, something that President Truman cooked up back in 1950. Under Reorganization Plan number 10, most of the managerial administration functions of the commission are assigned to the SEC chair, including responsibility for the commission's budget and congressional appropriations. So unlike some of the other independent agencies that the federal government has, the other 4 SEC commissioners have very little visibility in setting and approving the agency's budget. Reorganization Plan number 10 also gives the president the authority to designate a chair, an SEC chair, from among the 5 commissioners. So for example, Senate confirmation wouldn't be required if the president decided that one of the existing SEC commissioners should be the SEC chair. However, in most cases, a new SEC chair is brought in from the outside and is confirmed by the U.S. Senate as a commissioner, and then the president taps that person as the chair. It all happens sort of in one piece, but technically it's the Senate approving the person as a commissioner, and then the president anoints that person as the chair. So let me clarify the SEC chair's role within the SEC. The SEC chair is the supreme authority, more than number 1 among equals. Each of the other 4 commissioners has votes on matters that require a vote, but it's the chair who dictates the agenda for the SEC for the most part, and who makes all the important appointments, appointing the heads of the 5 divisions of the SEC, the various offices. There's about 24 different offices. The chair has the authority to appoint the heads of those, and all the staffers underneath the heads report up to the heads of their office, of their division. So the chair runs the entire staff. So it's the staff that reports to the SEC chair. That's how the pyramid works. The other commissioners are sort of off to the side. So when you see a traditional org chart, here's one that's posted on the SEC's website, the 4 commissioners are up there on the top line, but all that staff underneath really reports directly to the SEC chair. And that's not to say that the staff doesn't have to do something that the commissioners ask them to do. They do. But the commissioners actually don't ask much of the staff except to respond to questions that a commissioner might have during the rulemaking process, that kind of thing, maybe on a report. For the most part, the staffers are working for the heads of their divisions, heads of their office, and they all report directly to the SEC chair in their office. So there's really no mechanism for the other 4 commissioners to force anything, to bring things to a vote. If for some reason they all got together and went and demanded something of the SEC chair, they might have some sway, but probably not. The size of the SEC chair's staff is considerably larger than each of the commissioners. A commissioner typically has an administrative assistant, then 3 counselors that work for them. The SEC chair might have a dozen or so people in their office. It's still small, really, when you can think of it, but much larger than a commissioner's staff. So what do the other commissioners do, the non-SEC chair? What do they do? Well, first of all, they must approve all the SEC rules. They get a vote on that either at an open commission meeting that's held to consider proposed or final rules, or by seriatim. And I have a separate Vid-Guide explaining what the in seriatim process is, a link to which is below. Then there are closed commission meetings where the commissioners, along with the SEC chair, take a vote on pending enforcement actions at various stages of those investigations. It's not like the Attorney General's office where a local U.S. attorney makes a decision about whether to file a case or not. Here, the full 5 commissioners do get to vote about whether certain enforcement proceedings should continue to move on. Except there are a handful of situations where a duty officer, one of the SEC commissioners, is appointed as a duty officer to act on something that requires urgent action and you can't get the entire commission together, sort of like being on call when you're a doctor. I should mention that interaction among the commissioners and the chair is fairly minimal because of the Sunshine Act. I have a separate Vid-Guide about what the Sunshine Act is and its impact on how the commissioners interact, a link to which is beneath this Vid-Guide. But the upshot is that a commissioner might go have lunch with another commissioners, but all 5 of the commissioners do not get together and talk unless they're in an open commission meeting or in a closed commission meeting. So less common activity for the commissioners are approving all studies, all reports sent to Congress, which includes reports that are mandated by a congressional act. If someone is delivering testimony to Congress on behalf of the commission, the commissioners get a vote on that testimony. So if you've ever listened to someone giving testimony in a congressional hearing, they usually say in the first paragraph, "I'm happy to testify on behalf of the commission." The enforcement docket alone is enough to keep each of the commissioners very busy, but there's also rulemaking, and that keeps the commissioners busy too. But the commissioners also have their own gig, their side gig, which is traveling, giving speeches, visiting interested parties, various stakeholders, giving town hall meetings. Some of these meetings are even around the world. They're not just in the US. Each commissioner tends to have one or more pet causes. When I worked for a commissioner, one of the commissioners was known as the International Commissioner. The one I worked for was known as the Technology Commissioner. And for example, right now, Commissioner Peirce is known as Crypto Mom because of her interest in cryptocurrencies. And so the commissioners give speeches, talk to the press to get their message out about their areas of interest. How do you address a commissioner if you meet one? So you address the chair as the chair. Chair Clayton, good to see you. And you address a commissioner with the commissioner title. Commissioner Crenshaw, always a pleasure. This practice has always cracked me up a little bit because these are political appointments, and although many of the commissioners have already had distinguished careers and deserve a lot of respect, it just seems a little odd to me. For example, if you work for a company, you typically don't address the CEO as CEO Wilkinson. Anyways, let me know what you think.